Hello everyone. We're going to be going over composite functions, which is 6.1 in college algebra. I am so sorry that I'm just now getting this put up, but I'm going to go ahead and extend your homework due date because of unforeseen circumstances with all of the storms, and I hope they do not continue. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started on this. Okay, so on these, when we're looking at them, when it says g of f of -1, since we have the graph on these first ones, since f is our last function and we're doing the function of g of the function of f of 1, -1, so we go to where the function f, and this one is function f. So this one is function f. And this one is g of x, so this is function g. So the first thing we do on these is we find f of -1. So our f of -1 equals 3. So then we find g of 3. So when we have 3 in for g, we'd have 2. So our answer would be 2. So on this one, we have g of f of 0. So first find f of 0, which is 2. And then we put this number in for this. So g of 2 equals 2. So it would be 3. Big thing to remember on these is that this number over here, these are x values. So here we have f of g of -1, so g of -1 equals 4. So then f of 4 equals 0. So here we do g of 4 first. And that would be 3. Then f of 3 would be -1. So it's not really hard, it's just knowing how to do it at first because they're using different notation and you're having to learn how to use this new notation. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight these again. So you have g of x here. And I honestly think it's the exact same graphs. It really is. So g of f of 2, so first we find f of 2, so f at 2 is -1. Then we put the -1 into the g function, and at -1 is 4. So here, f of 0 first. So at 0, we're at 1. And substitute that to the other one. G of 1 is 6. F of g of 3. So since g is last, we'll do what is the y value when g is 3. It's 2. And then f of 2 equals -1. G of 4 is 3. Then f of 3 is 0. So I hope that made sense. These next ones, you're going to use all of your algebra skills to be able to It's just a bunch of plugging in numbers. You've done this before with just one function, but now we're combining our functions, so it shouldn't be the worst thing. And I wrote this one down already. So our first one, A, is f of g of 4. So doing like what we were doing previously, first I'm going to find g of 4, and then I'm going to put that into the f function. So we have g of 4, and this was our equation, so equals 3 times 4 squared plus 4. So 3 times 16 plus 4. I think it's 48, but I'm going to check. So we have 48 plus 4, which is 52. Then we're going to take our 52 and we're going to put it into this f function. So we'd have f of 52 equals 9 times 52. So f of g of 4 equals 468. B is g of f 2. So that means we're going to start with our f function. So we have f of 2 equals 9 times 2. So f of 2 equals 18. Then we go and substitute this number into the g function. So g of 18 equals 3 times 18 squared plus 4. So 18 squared is 324. Plus 4. Equals 976. That would be g of f of 2. C is f of 1. So we're just going to use our f function, which is f of x equals 9x. So first we'd have f of 1 equals 9 times 1. Then we're going to substitute this into the other f function, so remember that. So now we have f of 9 equals 9 times 9, which is going to equal 81. This is what 1 equals. D g of g 0. So we're going to have the g function, so g of x equals 3x squared plus 4. So first we're going to substitute 0 into one of them. So 3 times 0 squared plus 4, b 0 plus 4. So g of 0 equals 4. Then we're going to substitute this 4 into the equation. So g of 4 now equals 3 times 4 squared plus 4. And one thing about these on why you should write them all out is because now this is the same as this one. So I don't have to work this one out again if I took good notes. So g of g 0 equals 52. These are going to be a lot of algebra, but they're not hard. Plug in my answers over here. So number 4, we have our f of x equals 5x squared subtract 4. And then g of x equals 3 subtract 1/2 x squared. A is f of g of 4. So since g's the last one, we're going to plug 4 into g first. So I'd have g of 4 equals 3 subtract 1/2 times 4 squared. So 3 subtract 1/2 of 16. Half of 16 is 8. 3 subtract 8 would be -5. I'm going to substitute that -5 into the other equation. So we have f of -5 equals 5 times -5 squared subtract 4. So 5 times 25 subtract 4. 25 times 5 is 125. Subtract 4 would be 121. So f of g of 4 equals 121. Okay, B is g of f of 2. So first we're going to put 2 into the f function. So f of 2 equals 5 times 2 squared subtract 4. So 5 times 4 subtract 4, 20 subtract 4 is 16. Then I'm going to take my 16, substitute that into this g function. So we have g of 16 equals 3 subtract 1/2 of 16 squared. So 3 subtract half. 256. So 3 subtract 128. I was like, wait, how did I do that? All right. And so then 3 subtract 128 should be -125. And that is what g f of 2 equals, -125. I might run out of room. C is f, composite f of 1. So we're going to substitute 1 into, I can't see that anymore, so I'm going to rewrite it. The f function, 5x squared subtract 4. So we substitute 1 into that. 5 times 1, because 1 squared is 1, subtract 4. 5 subtract 4 would be 1. And then we technically do that again, but we just saw what happens. 5 times 1 is 5, subtract 4 is 1. So yeah. Okay. Then D is G, composite G, 0. So we have G of 0 equals 3, subtract 1/2 x squared, or 0 squared. So this is 0, so this would equal 3. We're going to substitute this 3 in, so G 3 equals 3 subtract 1/2 of 3 squared. 3 squared is 9, so 3 subtract half of 9. So we'd have 3 subtract 9 over 2. This would be 6 over 2. So g of g 0 equals -3 halves. I'm going to write that over here so you can see that better. So this one was 1 and this was -3 halves. Okay, I'm going to stop this video and start another one.